Hey everybody, my name is Derek Notman. Super stoked to be with you here today during the Riskalyze Fearless Week. Really awesome that we're all able to get together. I know this year's been a little bit different, but really great to be with all of you, and thank you for spending some time with me today. As you can see here, we're going to be talking about something I'm very passionate about, and I think that we are really at some crazy changes going on with our industry that I really want to dive more into today. And this transition from what I'm calling the brick and mortar advisor to the virtual advisor model. Okay, so let's jump in, just to give you a better idea of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what the financial advisor of the future looks like, okay? Why does any of this matter? Who am I, okay? What is a global mega trend, and that we're actually in one right now? How the consumer has evolved, especially over the last 20 years, and how technology has also helped that, but evolved itself. Anyone heard of Riskalyze, right? We've got this massive change of technology. The financial advisor, though, is still stuck in 1985, so we'll talk a little bit more about that, and then how my company, Connector, is actually empowering advisors to be the advisor of the future. Right, so let's talk about the financial advisor of the future. I love this graph here because I think it really illustrates what's going on right now with the pandemic. Things are changing. They're not going to change in the future. The future isn't tomorrow. The future is actually today. So what's going on with the actual financial advisor model, if you will? Well, we have to embrace this change. Like, we can't just put our heads in the sand and think it's all going to go away. Human behavior has changed, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But if we don't embrace these waves of change, we're going to become what I call a fad. You know, fads come and go. So if you look at it, financial advisor dinosaurs, and we all know what happened to the dinosaurs. So the challenge is that the financial advice industry is just slow and resistant to change almost. And I would argue like they want to change, but they're almost at a point where they'd rather kick the can down the road or take way too much time to actually decide on these changes that need to actually happen. The silver lining is the pandemic is starting to force it. So the opportunity is that the transition to be what the consumer wants us to be is actually simpler and faster than what most people realize, both as individual advisors, but also at the heads of these companies. So our brain gets in the way of our own evolution, which you have to think about for a little bit of a second, but we're stuck in these ways of doing things from the past, and they worked in the past, but things have materially changed now. So we have to really get our brain to be like, okay, something has changed now, the world is different, and we have to get out of our own way, to get out of our own evolution. So the financial advisor of the future, at least in my humble opinion, is going to have location independence. They're going to run a virtual or semi-virtual practice, completely different from what the brick and mortar advisors have done forever. I would say they're going to have a robust digital footprint, okay? They're going to be able to drive leads coming to them by taking advantage of all the different ways that they can market themselves. And you didn't hear me say prospecting, I mean marketing. But all the things that they can do now that we have all of this technology and leverage at our fingertips. We're going to focus on process, not product. And I'd say that actually has started to change more than any of this other stuff we're going to talk about today. But the client, the consumer, is so driven on process and planning. They don't want the product just because of the product. They want the product to be a byproduct of really good planning and a process. The advisor of the future, because of the way that they're going to structure their business, they're going to be able to make exponentially more money while drastically reducing their overhead. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go here. They're going to be recognized as a thought leader, right? We have this stage, if you will, this world stage where we can, through our robust digital footprint, we can now talk about things that are important to the types of people we want to work with and serve, and we can become a thought leader. Never have we had such a stage where we can do all of this and have the reach that we've never been able to have before. We have more time. This is extremely important, whether you want to invest that time into your business or into your family and pursuing your own personal passions. An awesome life-work balance. And you'll see there, I didn't put life-work balance. I would argue that a lot of advisors, if not all of us, really want to enjoy life, pursue our passions, be with our families, do all the things that is important to us. And by adopting this virtual or semi-virtual model, and becoming the advisor of the future, what the consumer wants us to be, we actually have a much better quality of life in doing so. So why does any of this matter? Now, I would encourage you just to take a look at this cartoon. I love this illustration. And you can see, the general on the left there, he is too busy stuck in his old ways to just go fight the battle they've always been fighting, to actually take a step back and say, hey, maybe there's a better way to do something. Maybe there's a better way to do what we're trying to accomplish here. So why does any of this matter that we're going to talk about today? Well, financial advice, what we do, it's crucial to the well-being of our clients, our economies, ourselves, and our families. What we do, it really, in my opinion, is the fabric of our lives, and it matters. The work that we do actually matters. We actually materially help other people. But to be able to continue to provide this value, that we've been doing forever, we have to be open-minded and embrace the change and realize that there's a better way to do things. The world has shifted, the world has evolved, so we really have to focus on, okay, let's embrace that change and keep doing the awesome work we do, but do it differently. We can't ignore the future. It really is a futile exercise. We can't ignore what's going on. And usually we think of the future as next week, next month, next year. Well, through a lot of things that happened in the last 6 to 7 months here, the future is now. The future is today. Human behavior has been forced to change, and we can't ignore that. So, who am I? I'll give you a little bit of background. So I am an actively practicing CFP, okay? That's me on the left, and it's also me on the right. That's me working at 35,000 feet somewhere over the South Atlantic, okay? I've been a financial advisor since 2006. I transitioned to the virtual model in 2013. I'm the founder of my firm, Intrepid Wealth Partners, which I still actively manage on a day-to-day basis. But I'm also founder of a new ed tech company called Connector, which has the virtual advisor system. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Husband and father, my son just turned 9 a little bit ago, so just totally stoked to be a dad, and been married to my wife for 15 years. World traveler, love to travel, have traveled all over the world. I love to surf. I'm not very good at it, but I enjoy surfing and love to get out in the water. And I'm a bit of a gearhead too. I love cars. Right, okay, that's enough about me. So let's talk about this global mega trend that we are experiencing. Okay, so what is a global megatrend? And I would encourage you to Google this if you haven't already. But I love this quote here. Megatrends are transformative global forces that define the future world with their far-reaching impacts on business, societies, economies, cultures, and personal lives. This could not be more true than what's going on right now, okay? So the current megatrend, it was underway, it was happening before COVID even hit. Right? The pandemic that we're in drastically sped up this change. It just put fuel on the fire for what this megatrend was already starting to do. It's been around for some time, but as I said, human beings in general, not just advisors, are slow to adopt new things, slow to embrace new things, slow to evolve. The pandemic has forced it faster than anyone could have ever imagined. So we can't fight it, right? We just can't. These are global forces. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just something that we have to acclimatize ourselves to. So if we don't embrace it, then we have a chance of actually going extinct. And this is a choice. By not deciding to do anything about it, by not embracing the change, you are actually deciding to maybe actually go extinct as an advisor and doing the things the way that we've been doing them for decades. So I think this is a really cool case study just to show the example of what's really happening here. Now, we've all probably gone out and bought a car, right? It is a super tangible experience where you want to drive it, touch it, smell it, check out the engine, all of that stuff, kick the tires, right? Well, Audi has just opened a flagship store in London. It is an entirely digital experience. Everything. You can't actually go there. So everything here, and you can see here, it's a one-stop shop. It's highly personalized. It's all online. But now you can buy a car from them. So if a car company is able to do it, and they're pushing the envelope here, but they're understanding this global megatrend that we're in. Everything else we do is online. Why not this? If a car company can do it, there's no reason we can't as advisors, because let's face it, we sell an intangible. You can't touch what we do, right? So this is a wonderful example of what's actually happening because of this global megatrend that we're in. Human behavior has materially changed. Think about that. Human behavior has changed because of this megatrend. Will we ever go back 100% to where we were? No. We are in the future now. Things have changed. Will we go back to have some normalcy with our lives? I sure as heck hope so, right? I think we all would like this pandemic to be gone and done. But because of it, because of the mega trend that's been forced upon us, people's behaviors have changed. And they're going to do things differently moving forward, because to undo those changes is super difficult. It's just not something that's going to happen. So let's talk a little bit more about the consumer. I would argue that any smart business owner, advisor, etc., really has to listen to what the consumer wants and is demanding. Because if we don't and we ignore that, we may completely miss the boat, okay? So where does the consumer go? Where do we go when we want to buy a new product or service? Well, this is pretty interesting. Google processes over 3.5 billion searches a day, right? So if you're looking for a new pizza joint, the best burger in town, a new financial advisor, a doctor, it doesn't matter. We're going online search to search for these things first. That's where we're going. So they've grown accustomed to doing everything online. They're dating, they're banking, and so forth. And we'll talk a little bit about the dating piece here in a second. But we're doing everything virtually and online already. I'll give you a quick example. I have a new doctor. We met virtually, right? I've never seen this guy, but we did my annual physical and checkup and everything. Kind of weird, but we did it all virtually from the comfort of my home. And he even said, moving forward, unless there's a serious emergency or you actually have to physically be in like the ER or whatever, we're going to continue to offer this virtual experience. So if people are comfortable getting their medical advice virtually, then there's no reason that they can't be comfortable doing what we're doing virtually. So the expectation of the consumer really has been established by now by 2020. The way that they get their products and services has changed, it's evolved. They want life-enhancing experiences that are convenient and that tend to be virtual. That's just what the consumer wants and has become an expectation for them. That's just what they want. So but especially for financial advice, the consumer still wants highly personal, customized experiences whenever they're doing something. I know I do, and I think we all probably pretty much do when it comes to any need or service that's other than something when we're buying something on Amazon real quick. So the medium, though, for that advice, the medium for that customization used to be a kitchen table. It used to be the boardroom. Well, all we're doing is we're switching those mediums out, and now we're adding a laptop and webcams, virtual meetings. We're doing all of these things through a different medium. We're still providing the same quality and customization, but the way we're doing it is differently. The financial advice industry, I mean, let's face it, right? We are predominantly a business-to-consumer industry, right? We are helping the end user accomplish their hopes, dreams, and goals through the products and services that we offer. So we have to pay attention to what they want. If we ignore that, then they're going to go somewhere else where they can find it. Because of the power of the internet, because of all the stuff they're doing on Google, they can go find the right advisor for them that's going to give them the experience they want. So if we are not paying attention to what they want and how they want it, it's going to really be a struggle for us to be successful moving forward. So let's also talk about technology, because a couple things have to happen here for this perfect storm to really work. So check this out. People don't realize how long some of these tech companies have been around. Amazon was in '95. That's actually kind of cool. Almost all of these are July or July-August. So there must be something going right here if we're having this event here in August this year. Netflix has been around since '97. eHarmony, online dating, has been around since 2000. Okay, 20 years we've been doing this now. Skype, virtual meetings, this is not something new. Sure, Zoom is a little bit newer, but they've still been around almost 10 years. Skype's been around for 17 years. We've been doing virtual meetings. So none of this is new. The consumer has already been getting comfortable with these things for a very long time. So it has been the great equalizer of our time, more so than any other generation because of how it's enabled us to connect and do the things we want to do faster and better. We live in a connected world. Let's face it, we've got our smartphones, our laptops, our computers, whatever it is. We are connected to pretty much anybody, anywhere that we want to be with. The infrastructure is in place. You know, there are high-speed internet places everywhere now. We can have the internet at our fingertips at home, no problem, high speed. We're not on the dial-up modems anymore, and yeah, I might be dating myself a little bit, but that's what we used to use. So the infrastructure is in place, whether it's a webcam, a text service, it doesn't matter, it's all there. The consumer has accepted it and embraced it. These companies didn't stay around as long as they did because the consumer didn't want it or didn't like what was being offered. So think about it. Technology has broken down the barriers and empowered businesses to grow exponentially, connected people all over the world like never was possible before. It's just amazing. And think about it. We could have never done this with the fax machine. And as a funny little note here, you can see back in 1982, the fax machine cost $20,000, which is absolutely crazy because you would never pay that kind of money to get up and running for a business today. So the rate of change for technology, it's always going to grow, right? But it's going to grow exponentially. I think we've all seen that over the last 20 years, how fast tech has driven and continued to go faster and faster and faster. So the world is full of amazing forward-thinking companies, fintech companies especially. I mean, heck, look at it. Riskalyze is putting on this amazing virtual event for us this week. That's pretty awesome. It's I would almost say unprecedented, given that this has all been done usually in person before. So we are doing things differently. We are comfortable doing things differently, and a lot of companies are starting to figure it out. So why are financial advisors, in the way we run our practices, and remember, I'm an active advisor still, right? So I get this. Why are we stuck in 1985 still? Hope you guys recognize who this is, right? This guy literally was trying to sell life insurance on the street in the movie Groundhog Day. Ned Ryerson, you'll have to check it out if you don't know who this guy is, okay? Being a financial advisor has always been a tough job. It takes a special breed to get through those really tough days. I mean, let's face it, the paychecks are not consistent, lots of rejection, lots of uncertainty. It really does take a special breed of person to be an awesome financial advisor, okay? When I was starting in 2006, here's what I was taught as a new advisor coming into the industry, right? I was told to prospect, which in my opinion, maybe some of you have heard this, I think it sounds like a bad medical procedure. It's terrible. But I was cold calling, dialing for dollars, okay? These nightly phone clinics that we had to do. I was literally walking around to businesses just to hand out my business card completely out of the blue. They weren't expecting me. Newspaper ads, cheesy steak dinner seminars, the list goes on and on and on. I'm sure you can all, understand. You've probably been here with a lot of these things. So this is some of the stuff I was taught in 2006. I was taught to have in-person meetings. Most of them I was taught just go to their house because it's going to be easier to meet with them, right? On nights and weekends. It was awful. It was not a lot of fun, okay? I was driving tens of thousands of miles a year, right? 20 to 30,000 miles a year easily is what was happening as I was running my business and being told how to do all these things. I was told in a roundabout way, you need an office. I'm looking at all the older advisors around me at that time, and they either have an office or a building they've bought. They've got in-house staff and all the other things that come with it. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's what I should do too, and I did. So here's the crazy thing. These things are still being taught to younger advisors coming in today, right? So we're pushing 15 years since I started the industry, and the same things are still being taught. How do I know this? I have been talking over the last year to advisors across the country from all different channels, and even outside of the country, okay? They're all telling me the same thing. Derek, we're still being taught these same old things. We don't want to do it anymore. The client doesn't want us to do it anymore. We're tired of it. So it's really no surprise that 9 out of 10 advisors wash out. They fail within the first 3 years, give or take. I mean, think about it. It's sucking the life out of you with what you're doing, right? It's not what advisors want to do either. You see these cool companies like Riskalyze or Google or Facebook, and all these guys working there are able to do things remotely, and they've got these really cool environments. But then their buddy goes to work at some old financial company, and they're told, oh, you got a cold call, oh, you can't use a computer, we don't do websites really. It's just, it doesn't work. The younger generation coming into the industry just doesn't want it anymore. The pandemic, so if there's a silver lining to this pandemic, that remains to be determined, but maybe possibly one of them is it has put a spotlight on how outdated our industry really is. And again, I'm not bad-mouthing our industry. We do a lot of good. I love the work that we do. I love being an advisor. But the way we do it is just so old and outdated, and it needs to evolve. It needs to speed up to the rest of us, are doing things in 2020. So regardless of what's happening with the pandemic, right, the way the financial advice was being given actually did start to change. As I mentioned earlier, I actually went virtual back in 2013. And it was there. I was early to the party for sure, but it was already starting. The pandemic has just proved beyond a reasonable doubt that it's here to stay. People are comfortable doing it. I've been doing it for 7 years, okay? It's comfortable. People are used to it. If grandma can do FaceTime, grandma can do a virtual meeting for her advisor, okay? It's really possible now. And it's been great because the pandemic, in a way, has cemented this change and said, hey, it's possible. We can make this work. Things are going to be okay. It's also presented us with a major opportunity. We had this challenge and all these things that were going on, but it's now also an opportunity for us to, as advisors, to evolve, for the companies that we support and represent to evolve. You know, it's easy to always do, I love this quote, it's easy to always do what's been done until it isn't, okay? The times, the demands of the consumer, the expectations of everything, they've all changed. We have to realize that if we want to get out of 1985. So, what are we doing at Connector? I'll tell you a little bit more about Connector. Connector is an ed tech company that I founded about a year and a half ago now. Crazy how time flies. And my motivation, inspiration for doing it was that I initially built my virtual practice for me, to have a better quality of life with my family, to be home so I could see my son grow up. I'll tell you, if you have kids, you know how fast your kids grow up. And I always had a problem with, why am I putting my life on hold to go help my clients realize their hopes, dreams, and goals for the future? It just didn't make sense to me. It should be a mutually beneficial thing. So as I built this practice, and I got a lot of arrows in my back, when you're blazing a new path, there's just not a blueprint or a roadmap on how to do it. But I ended up figuring out how to build a virtual practice, how to be really successful doing it, but also how to have a lot of quality of life experiences with my family. I've been able to travel all over the world because of it, and my business hasn't missed a beat. In fact, I've actually been able to reduce my overhead by 60%, and my revenues continue to go up by about 20% a year. So I initially built it for me. I was a little bit selfish. But then I had all of these advisors who initially said, oh, the virtual thing is never going to work. Advisors from all over the place started coming to me like, well, Derek, how are you doing this? How are you able to work virtually? How are you able to do business with a client in a different state all through these virtual things? How do you do all that? So that was my motivation, inspiration to actually found another company to support the advisor community, just to really improve the advisor experience. Because let's face it, if the advisor feels good and has a better experience, then the client is going to have a better experience. That way we all win. So really what we're doing is we're helping advisors skate to where the puck is going. 1985 is where it was. 2020 is where it's here. It's here today. That's where we're going. So I am an advisor. I built Connector for advisors as an active advisor. And you can see here, you can learn a little bit more about it. But I really want to empower advisors to have an amazing life, to build the business of their dreams for today and tomorrow. The rest of the industry has shifted. The rest of the consumer sentiment and technology has shifted. They're evolving. I think it's time now for financial advisors to do the same. If you have questions, you can get in touch with me. You can go to the website and so forth. But I just wanted to give you a little bit more about that. And we are totally empowering advisors now to be able to build a virtual or semi-virtual practice so they can be what the consumer wants them to be and be where they want them to be. Thanks a ton for spending some time with me today. This is awesome that we're at Riskalyze Fearless Week. What a cool thing that they've put on for all of us. So if there's any questions from this presentation, let me know. There's a chat box here. You can pop them in there. They'll let me know, and I'm happy to respond. You can also send me an email directly, connect with me on social media and so forth. But I'd be happy to chat with any of you and just do my best to help you or at least point you in the right direction. Thanks, everybody. Wishing you all the best. Stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye.